everyone, and welcome to this next episode in our series, Sermon Shorts, with our pastor, Ray Jones, here at Ridgecrest. We are in a series, Pastor, that's entitled Myths That Lead to Misbelief. And this past Sunday, you led our congregation through this message that was entitled Start with the Foundation, looking at Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27, helping us understand the importance of the foundation as we navigate what we believe or don't believe. And so one of the things, though, that you said specifically that I want to go back to that stood out to me as you were teaching and preaching and had the opportunity, as I was taking notes and working through that with you, you said towards the end of the sermon this statement: our future is tied to our foundation. Yeah. Speak to that statement a little bit further, because to me, that's a profound thought. That my future, and as a dad, that goes to the future of my kids. That goes to the future of where God's placed me in leadership or just in influence. So speak to that a little bit further. Our future is tied to our foundation.
Well, the whole reason we started the series with the subject, start with the foundation, is because if you don't get the foundation right, you don't get anything else right.
Right.
That's true if you're building a building. If you don't get the right, and that parable is proof of that, and that was Jesus' whole point. The foundation, if the foundation's right, then everything from the foundation up will be stable. Right. But if it's not, you're building a house, a life on a shaky foundation, and the point is it will not or cannot endure. So as I kind of wrap that message up with that statement, why is it important, the foundation? It's because your future is tied to the foundation. Here's what I mean by that. Both your future in this life, but in particular in the next life. Paul said there's only one foundation that a person can build their life upon, the foundation of Jesus Christ. He writes that in the book of Corinthians, that there is no other foundation except for Jesus Christ. So if you don't get that right, you just don't get your future right. You see. Yeah. So you start there with the foundation, and the foundation you lay affects, you said, like my family.
Yeah.
It does affect, and a kind of a negative twist on that. If you go to the Old Testament, it says that God visits the sins of the fathers to the third and fourth generation. Well, that means if the father's not building his life right, guess what? It has repercussions for other people. The point in that parable that Jesus tells us is also that there were two foundations, the right one, the rock, and the sand, the faulty one, and there were consequences, significant consequences to both of them. The significant consequence to the sand is it won't endure. That foundation won't endure, and eventually in life, there are going to be storms that batter us.
Right.
And so if the foundation's wrong, the house, the life, collapses under that. If it's right, it stands. It may be battered, but it stands.
Right.
And what it does is it is a legacy. So that house stands there as a testimony of what God has done. And then, of course, it is reflective of our eternity. The right foundation, it affects how you live for God in this life, but subsequently, it has bearing on our eternity. So if the foundation is Jesus Christ, meaning that a person has trusted Christ as their Savior and their life is oriented around Christ, the foundation or the solid rock,
right,
then guess what? What they've done is they have changed significantly their eternal destination. So that's what I mean when I say that your future really is tied to your foundation.
So when we think about our future, this massive statement that our future is tied to our foundation, I think sometimes just in general in our world today, we neglect the foundation. It's easy to neglect the foundation. Why would you say that's the case? And then wrap us up, Pastor, with a thought today of just encouragement for the listeners, the viewers, to not neglect the foundation.
Well, the reason it's easy to neglect the foundation is because we don't have anybody monitoring us usually. It's like a builder of a home who's not being monitored can take shortcuts.
Right.
And that's what the guy who built on the sand did. He had the right instructions. They both had the same instructions. One of them just took shortcuts. And if there's nobody to police you, your tendency is to give only energy when you want to give to it, or commitment, the kind of commitment you want. Now, we could say in the big sense, well, we are being monitored. God is monitoring us. But think about this. God rarely moves in your life in such a way to say, if you don't do this right, I'm going to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And that rarely happens. So now you can't do that in work. If you go into work and say, well, I'm just not going to, there are immediate consequences in most cases. But we can in the spiritual life. We can just neglect it because God if he saved us, if we're believers, then he's going to say, now I've given you the instructions, just follow the instructions. But we can say, nobody's riding herd on me. I don't have to follow the instructions. And so subsequently, we cannot give attention to the foundation that we're building on, and so we don't build the kind of house we ought to build.
Right. Pastor, as we wrap this conversation up today, I think it's important to ask ourselves the question that you asked in this sermon, and for all of our viewers as well to process this. What foundation are we building? You mentioned the solid or the shaky foundation in your message, and the reality that there's two options there. We have that choice. You talked about that as well. And we want to encourage all of you, as you are walking daily, building your foundation on Jesus, as it says in the New Testament. He is our firm foundation, our chief cornerstone, and a foundation built on that is one that the Lord will guide and direct to walk through and navigate the uncertainty of our world and the lies and the misbelief that's easy to experience. And so we encourage you today with that. Thanks for checking out Sermon Shorts. We'd love for you to share this, and looking forward, Pastor, to more short conversations with a goal of obeying what God's calling us to do through these sermons.
Yeah, me too.